The debate, and she has what's coming up on the record as well.
Thank you, Brit. And I have Brit Hume right here with me. Brit, in watching the show tonight, what do you think that the independents and undecided saw at home?
Well, it all depends on what they think of Joe Biden and his demeanor. It seems to me that looked at, if you read the transcript, you might well conclude that the vice president had a very strong debate, that he had a lot to say, that he was strongly critical of Governor Romney and his program, that he held his own. But that's not all there is to it. We had the split screen, much as we did during the presidential debate. And what you saw while Paul Ryan was talking, as others have pointed out, was smirking, laughing, smiling, mugging by the vice president. And my sense about it was that it was so compelling that people probably couldn't take their eyes off of it. And so it'll come down to whether people thought that was attractive or not. Myself, I didn't. I thought it was unattractive. I thought it was rude, and I have a feeling it'll come across to an awful lot of people as rude. It looked like a cranky old man to some extent debating a polite young man.
Well, it's funny you say it. This morning I gave a speech and I told everybody in the audience I happen to really like Joe Biden, and I happen to really like Paul Ryan. And I said to the group that these are the two nicest men that you will see in Washington. They're very nice. You disagree with them, but very nice. I thought that Ryan was respectful. He said, "Thanks, Joe," at the end. He was polite and respectful. But the smiles, the sneers, and the "my friend" stuff, I was surprised. It made Vice President Joe Biden, someone who I typically like, I thought he was very unlikable. I thought he was. I was surprised that I didn't like him.
On a personal basis, I've known Joe Biden a very long time. He's a very nice man. And I've often said of him that if you're sitting talking to him and you told him you needed his shirt, he'd start taking his shirt off. That's the way he is on a personal basis. But his public discourse has always been marked by a couple of things. He has this nervous mannerism, which is a smile, and he flashes it all the time, even sometimes when it's inappropriate. I think it's a nervous tic. Tonight, it was out there for all to see, time and time again, and it was more than that. It was laughing and derisive, sneering, as you suggested. He also said a couple of things. He said at one point that when he was asked about the need for more security in Benghazi, we were not told, he said, that more security was needed. I don't think that's true. The other thing he said was that the $716 billion that goes in the books as a Medicare cut was actually being applied to Medicare. That's not true either. Now, I don't know whether the fact checkers will get after him about that or whether anyone will notice.
You know, I think it's interesting. That's where it gets down in the weeds, and it's like it's easy for your mind to sort of get lost as you're listening to them fighting over the weeds in terms of the numbers of Medicare and taxes. The likability thing, I actually think is so important, and that's why I asked you what are independents and decides. That's what they saw. They don't know what we think about him and think he's a nice guy. The rest of people saw him as a sneering rude.
Actually, Greta, I think what probably may have happened tonight is the belief on the left and among a lot of Democrats was that Mitt Romney had sort of taken over the first debate, overwhelmed Barack Obama, who was more reserved, and dominated the whole affair. And one senses that perhaps this is what Vice President Biden was doing tonight, to try to dominate the debate. And one could argue that he did that. But Mitt Romney did not seem to me, and I don't think to very many people, to have been rude or overbearing or unpleasant or condescending in his behavior toward the moderator and toward the president. One senses that a lot of people will feel that that's exactly how Joe Biden seemed tonight.
Well, the Twitter world is certainly alive. We're going to be back at midnight for a special, and when we're back here for our special, by that time I'll find out a little bit more about what the people are saying who are at home watching it. We're going to take you live to Congressman Paul Ryan's hometown, Janesville, Wisconsin, and we're going to get debate reaction from his brother and sister-in-law, Tobin and Oakley Ryan. Plus, Karl Rove and Pat Buchanan will be right here. So you need our midnight show. But in the meantime, stay tuned because Brett and Megan will be right back in a minute.
Thanks.
America's election headquarters is brought to you by